Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 79 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we made it, Tim.
We're
made
at
the end of the horror challenge.
That's right. So as you guys are listening to this, Halloween is over. We're recording this on Monday night, so we have not yet experienced the final days of October, but we're getting there, and we have actually finished our October horror movie challenge early.
Yes, we did finish. I'm the only one is technically I have, rewatch your favorites, which I'm going to save for Halloween night. I figured I would end on a strong note because I'm going to watch a movie Halloween night anyway. So I figured I'd just save it for that. But that's the easiest, obviously that's the easiest one to pick throughout the challenge. It was the other ones where you had to really search for movies that you hadn't seen and you wanted to make sure you pick something that would be a good representation of the challenge task, and I think we have some good ones, and that's why I'm actually kind of excited for this show, because basically what we're going to do is, as we mentioned last week, we're going to go through the challenge and kind of give us give our recaps of some of the highlights and lowlights. And it was good because that was a kind of like a motivation to finish a little early, to finish by today, so we basically have all our movies under our belts.
Right, and if you guys want a recommendation show of films to watch, this is the episode you're going to want to listen to, because we both went through 31 films or 30 films, and not a lot of overlap. There's a few.
No, there's only a handful, I
think,
a handful.
Right? So you're going to get, probably 50 plus horror films discussed on this episode alone that you can go check out. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's get right into it. We got kind of a shorter first half this episode, but that's okay because it gives us more time to talk about those 50 films.
Yeah.
Let's get right to our first chop. All right, Brian, so we're winding down, of course, the end of the Alphabet Project, and we're now down to V is for Venom. No, not the Tom Hardy Marvel vehicle. I'm talking
or my
about...
brother Seth dressed up.
No, that was a great picture, by the way. Yeah, if you go check out our Instagram of his brother dressed up as Venom, it's completely awesome.
Yeah, my sister-in-law actually did the makeup for it, and it's like that's like movie quality what she did, in my opinion.
Outstanding. No, V is for Venom. Venom is a 1981. I am told it is a cult classic, even though I've never heard of it. But I'll take their word for it. I can kind of see how it would be. So this is one of the weirdest premises you're ever going to hear. So the premise is a group of kidnappers have decided to take this young boy hostage. And in the middle of kidnapping him, they basically get stopped in the process. And at the same time, a black mamba snake is running loose in the apartment. It's primarily a hostage drama, but there's a deadly venomous snake running around the apartment.
I may have seen this actually a long time ago. I mean, it's from the 80s, so It makes sense. It probably was on cable once.
And it said 1981. I saw Shudder said 1982, so it's somewhere in there, the early 80s. But it's an interesting film. It has Klaus Kinski of Nosferatu fame. He did the Nosferatu remake. And it's got an interesting snake cam perspective where you see the view of from the point of view of the snake crawling through the air ducts and stuff. But it's really weird because it's like, how is this a horror movie when I could see it if the snake was like stalking people, but it's not. It's just being a snake, it's just kind of running around. Yeah. But, of course there are some snake death scenes and some really comical stuff happening when they're trying to wrestle this snake away and shoot at it and everything. So I don't know. It's campy a little bit, but it takes itself very seriously, and it's a lot of fun. So I would check it out. Venom from 1981 if you want to see a very, very strange premise for a horror movie.
And it's funny, even though it's not the Venom from Marvel, like Klaus Kinski, that's got that alliteration kind of thing going, like a Marvel character would have. You know, like Peter Parker, Pepper Potts, Klaus Kinski. He sounds like a villain from Spider-Man. He really does.
He really does, yeah.
It's like Spider-Man. He's like, what do we do, Mary Jane? I don't know, but Klaus Kinski's on the loose. Poor guy. He's such a good actor.
Yeah, he's really great. Yeah, it's fun to see him in something besides Nosferatu, because that's what I know him from. But it's so cool to see him in a different role. But that's a good one. It's on streaming on Shudder right now, so check that one out. And also we had some sad news.
Yes, this is a blow to our hashtag.
Oh my
Pumpkin is the
God.
bacon of the fall.
So you remember last year, and probably the year before,
yeah,
we were making these back before even the podcast, probably, but
right.
we were making these pumpkin cookies with these Toll House pumpkin morsels that were absolutely out of this world. And Brian remarked to me early in the season, I can't find these things. So I started looking for them. I could not find them anywhere. And Brian discovered they have indeed been discontinued.
Yes. So let's all together do a collaborative Donald Pleasance. No! So, yeah, this is bad. And the funny thing is, I actually managed, I found 3 bags from last year that are still basically okay. I mean, I think they say best by like May or June of 2018. If you know anything about dates, Best Buy for something like that usually have another like 6 to 8 months of freshness, so it'll be okay. Because the ones I made last year were about 4 or 5 months old, and they came out as good as ever. So, but it's sad because I have this debate now. I'm like, okay, I got 3 bags. Do I make 3 batches and like go out in a blaze of glory, or do I make just 1 batch and sell them?
Julie just
sell
finds
the
you
other
passed
2
out in the middle of a room with crumbs around your mouth.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, and the funny thing is last year, because remember I made them from when we went to Busch Gardens, and not as many people ate them as I thought, and I came back with so many of them, and I was literally eating like 2 or 3 a night, and I was just like, at one point I was like, I think my skin kind of turned like into the color of those cookies, and I was just like, it was bad. I was like, it was to the point of where actually I couldn't look at them anymore. And I was like, I can't make another batch this year. And I usually make a batch around Christmas. I couldn't do it. I just made my normal sugar cookies. But now, now it's been a while, and now I've been craving them again. And the fact that, like, I know they're discontinued, I'm like clutching to these bags. I'm afraid to make them because it's like, when will they come back?
I know. Well, you can't keep them for another year. It's the problem.
No, I can't. I know. I
them.
either have to make them, or I'm afraid I'm just going to panic and just eat the bag of chips and not even bother with the cookies.
Well, I did find the Pillsbury pre-made pumpkin cookie dough. And this one it's a pumpkin spice dough with white cream cheese morsels. So the morsels are not pumpkin, but the dough is. And these are pretty good. I made a batch of these. Obviously, they're not as good as what we make with the pumpkin morsels, but they're pretty good.
And I saw the Toll House actually made the pumpkin cookie dough too, but with just white chocolate chips in them. So I'm wondering if they decided to, like, because maybe those were suffering, so they decided to pull the pumpkin chips away, and now you're forced to buy these pumpkin cookies.
I can't find the pumpkin. I can't find the Toll House pumpkin ones. I just saw the Pillsbury.
I found those, but the Pillsbury one sounds better, in all honesty, because the cream cheese icing chips sound better than just the white chocolate chips. Yeah. So I'm torn. I'm like, I think I'm gonna definitely go for the Pillsbury. I'm not gonna buy the Toll House ones and then like force their hand into bringing back the chips next year.
Hey, I mean, boycott them. That's what I did with not boycott, but write angry letters, because that's what I did for the microwavable syrup.
Oh, and they came back?
So, yeah, they discontinued it completely. I mean, took it off the shelves. You couldn't find it. And people were pissed. Like, people were, like, writing letter campaigns. And I did my part to write into those guys. And it's like, hey, you got to bring back this microwavable syrup. And they did. They brought it back. So, enough pressure out there, guys.
Yeah, I feel like it's in that movie Summer School. Remember where they, like, were teaching them English to how to write a business letter? And they write back to get those glasses, the sunglasses. That'll be us. Tim and I will be writing a campaign, and we'll sign it. Civil Gore Podcast hashtag Pumpkin is the bacon of the fall.
Yeah, you can get crazy things done. I got like 6 months worth of French fries from McDonald's one time because I wrote them a letter and said like their store up here sucked because they got my order wrong like 3 days in a row.
Look, Tim's like the Norma Ray of junk food.
Yeah, and they and I didn't expect anything to come of it. I just wanted to tell them, I was like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but like talk to your manager and say, look, check the orders before you go through the drive-thru or whatever. And they sent me like a book full of like 6 months coupons worth for free French fries.
That's crazy.
So you never know. The squeaky wheel sometimes gets the grease. So
I think we need to start squeaking.
Yes. New Shudder theme by John Carpenter.
Yeah, did you get to listen to this?
Yes, Brian texted me and said, "Hey, have you listened to this new Shudder theme?" And I was like, "What? John Carpenter did a Shudder theme? Huh?
Yeah.
What? Where?" And I went and checked it out, and it is incredible. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, the master himself. I mean, he is bigger than ever now. With his new Halloween, and now he's got the Shudder theme, and I mean, it's the perfect, like, it's so well done, as well as like the Halloween theme goes with the Halloween movie. This goes perfect with the Shudder opening.
Yeah, and it's total John Carpenter. You got the heavy synths and the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really good. And now I missed the part. Like, Brian, when is this going to play? Like, where is this going to be featured?
I assume it's when you open the app. And I believe it debuts on Halloween, is what I read.
Okay.
So whether or not it's going to be forever or for a while, but I mean, it seems like, the guy composed a piece of music. I doubt it for one night only. So I think it's just going to be when you open that app, and usually just got that silent thing that's a Shudder, or maybe it plays through the background as you're selecting your movies. Either way, it was like a minute and a half. It's a decent sized piece. So I would imagine it would just keep looping through, because that opening of Shudder itself is only about 10 seconds before it opens up into the screen. So I would assume it's that. But man, Shudder is picking up even better than it ever was. I mean, we got a lot of good stuff coming for it. Between the Creepshow series coming, it's like this. I'd like this. Tell you, this is the app to have.
I think Shudder has reached like this critical tipping point that Netflix reached, where they have enough subscribers now where they can start doing original content. Horror people know who they are. They've become the default industry leader in that space. Yeah. So, I mean, good things are happening at Shudder. I mean, I've heard people that are not really horror fans know what it was and mention it. So it's getting out there. So that's really, really good. I think this is going to be a real positive thing, because when they start getting original movies, original content and stuff out there, man, look out. It's just going to be horror overload. I can't wait.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that you could see the app on like Prime, Amazon Fire Sticks and Xbox, you could see the apps as you're going through. That's a big plus.
Yeah.
So, that is just a cool thing, and a cool thing. And I actually watched, for one of my horror challenges, I was home, so I was relaxing. So normally I just watched all my Shudder on my iPads, but I'm like, wait a minute, why am I watching on the iPad when I'm sitting in front of the TV? So I threw it up on the app, and it, so I was like, it was almost like surreal. I'm like, why I'm watching Shudder on my TV?
Now I heard that they're going to be pulling it off of Amazon or something. You know how they have the Amazon subscriptions,
right? Yeah, that's coming off of there.
I think I read that they're pulling it off of there, which is just as fine, because I'd heard people say that the content differed. Like, there were some movies they couldn't get on the Amazon subscribed Shudder channel that were on the regular Shudder channel. And I don't know if it was permanently or if it was just a delay in when the Amazon app would get it. But either way, some people were kind of upset about that, because it seemed like they were getting a different experience. And then I read recently that they were going to pull it off of the Amazon channel, so you're going to have to subscribe through Shudder, which is fine. That's the better way to do it.
Of course, yeah. And for $6 a month,
I mean, gosh, it's so worth it. So worth
I'm afraid it's going to go up. I think it will. I think by next year, actually, especially once Creepshow hits and this really starts to go, I think it's going to go to $7.99. And remember, that's just pure speculation on my part. This has not been announced in any way. I'm not trying to report anything, because I'm just assuming. And even at $7.99, worth every penny.
That's 2 rentals, guys. Two rentals of a couple of movies you want to see, and they have more than enough to watch that you'll be busy forever.
Oh God, yeah. They have great, and they're getting the best part is they're getting like kind of exclusives now too, like Mandy's coming on there, and Summer of '84 is on there, so it's really got some good stuff.
I didn't put it on the rundown, but I'm listening to their new original podcast, which is called Video Palace. And,
I want to check that out.
Yeah, that one's really cool. So yeah, that's Shudder's the place to be right now, and we're not getting paid to say that.
No,
we're paying them to say that.
Yeah, exactly. We are. We should be though. They should have us on.
Yeah, they really should
have us like have a little like segment.
Well, Brian, you did not get to go to Chiller, unfortunately. But it's kind of a good thing you didn't. Tell us why.
Yeah, there was a little excitement there. I mean, I heard it was a great show as always. But I guess so. There was a bomb scare and a gas leak. I've heard both things. It could have been one or the other or both. But I definitely heard there was some sort of a bomb scare where all the celebrities had to be evacuated. which is kind of disheartening. I mean, but you can't, obviously with what's going on in the world today, you cannot take a chance.
Right.
You hear something like that, you have to act. You cannot wait and take a risk like that. Not with obviously the horrible thing at the synagogue in Pittsburgh happened that day, that weekend too. So it's like you're not taking a chance, so there's a little excitement, but everything is okay. Everyone was fine. There was nothing bad in the end. But yeah, it kind of stunk. I didn't get to make it. It was just, you know what? It was the weather was horrible around near me, and I was just kind of fighting a cold, and I was just so drained, and I'm like, I just need to relax. Just that trip to New Jersey, which is normally, I mean, for me would have been because I was gonna go pick up Cone first, probably about a little over an hour and 15 minutes, but in the rain probably would have extended it to like close to hour 45 to 2 hours. And I just didn't have the strength. So it kind of stunk, but it was a combination of the two things. But it was okay. I finished the horror challenge, and, So, I mean, you know what? Chiller comes twice a year, which is good. There's 2 chances for me every year to go see. So I'll probably try and shoot for the spring one, and hopefully we'll try and get to one of those Monster Mania ones together too, Tim. We'll get to get that in there.
Yeah, next year we should look at trying to get to one together, even if I have to drive up or whatever.
Yeah, we definitely need to do it. I mean, it's a shame we have not yet done. We've done plenty of coaster trips together and some haunts together. Obviously, we did the best haunt there is together.
Yeah,
but I think we need to get to like one of those horror cons together.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be a fairly inexpensive trip too. So I should be able to pull that off. I mean,
especially if it's one of our areas. I mean, obviously you come here, you stay at our place, and
yeah, exactly,
vice versa. So.
In other horror news, Halloween is doing awesome at the box office. So we have these are the numbers we have currently. This is as of Monday. 172 million global take. The first film in the franchise to top 100 million. The number 1 movie the second week in a row, which is huge.
Yeah.
And it's expected to hit 200 million next week. So I think this was a hit. I think this bodes very well for a sequel.
So yeah, Danny McBride said they're already working on it. And actually he said he said they had the idea long ago, as he was doing the other, but he didn't want to, one of those don't count your chickens before they hatch kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
Like he's like, why jinx it? Let's just get the first one under. And, while they were being I thought a little overly cautious, but they did the right thing. And I don't want to go into it now because I think what we should do is have we talked about a bonus more spoiler filled episode. Maybe we'll discuss it when the Blu-ray is released. That might be a good time.
Yeah,
to kind of go into a spoiler review of it again, and because I have some thoughts on the sequel that what I do want to see and what I don't want to see. So I think that'll be a fun discussion. Definitely not the place right now for it. But I did another thing about the box office is I actually saw a report that they said they think it'll get to 250, which
wow,
that movie is just that's incredible for that movie. I mean, I plan to go see it again. I only got to see it obviously the first time in the preview version, and then the original the full release of it. But I want to see it again. It's one of those movies that I think definitely deserves repeat viewings for big fans.
Yeah, and I was gifted the horror novelization of the movie.
I have that saved, actually. I'm going to order it. I think it's only $6, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So next up, a Netflix short horror movie collection. Don't watch this. I wanted to see this. I just found out about this today, actually.
Yeah, same here. And I threw it right on the rundown.
Yeah, but it's a collection of short horror films on Netflix underneath that Don't Watch This banner. So I really want to see these.
Yeah, well, you know me. I love my horror shorts.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see that. And not shorts that I wear. I meant like short films.
He's got a pair of like Jason hockey mask boxers.
I do have horror shorts. And yeah.
And then finally, another episode of Eli Roth's History of Horror. And this one's about possession. I'm sure that's a good one.
Yeah, no, this one goes into a lot of great films. Of course, The Exorcist, goes through The Omen, Evil Dead, Get Out, and it has some great guests on this one. It's like they have some of the usuals that are always on there, like Jordan Peele, Rob Zombie, McGarrett, but and they go through a couple of other ones, like Alex Winter was on there. He had actually a little segment. So so it was really good. They are. I love this show. It's so well done. It's just, I mean, even just for the little clips they show, and it's just a really, really great show.
All right, guys. Well, October is over, which means the flood of horror Blu-rays has dried up to a trickle.
Wait, did you hear that, Tim?
No, what is it?
That big sigh. That's my wallet.
Oh, yeah.
Relaxing and closing back up and saying, I'm done.
Well, we do have a few discs this week, a very few, so let's get right into it. This is our disc memberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't cut off.
Okay, these are the Blu-ray releases for November 6th. November 6th. I can't talk. November 6th, 2018. So, first up, our usual run of steelbooks. These things are popular. I guess people are buying them because I see steelbooks coming out every single week. And we got some cool ones this week. We got The Thing from 1982. We've got Grindhouse from 2007, which I loved Grindhouse. I really loved that movie.
Yeah.
A Sharknado collection, which has all of the Sharknado films in a steelbook case. I thought that was interesting.
That's kind of cool.
That's
cool. I like that idea, yeah.
One of Brian's recent favorites, Train to Busan.
I just ordered that, actually. I ordered the non-steelbook version because it was $11 on Amazon.
Which is a steal.
And for that movie, oh my God.
Great,
how do you not buy it for that? Yeah.
And then finally, Phantasm, the original Phantasm from 1977. It's getting a steelbook release. So
yeah, of course. I just couldn't buy that again. We bought that amazing box set.
That box set is awesome. So
yeah.
So first up is I'm going to go ahead and tell you your pick of the week, Brian, because this is it.
Yes, of course it is. It absolutely is.
It's the only disc with extras.
Yeah, and Mick Garris, he was just mentioned. I just mentioned he was featured on History of Horror every week. He's on there.
That's right. Now, I have not seen this movie since 1992 when it was released. This is Sleepwalkers, based off a Stephen King story, released by Shout Factory, directed by Mick Garris, starring Brian Krause, Machen Amick. How you say her last name?
I always said Machen Amick, but I heard it's Machen Amick. I've been pronouncing it wrong. I've heard it's Amick.
Okay, so. Machen Amick and Alice Krieg.
The wonderful Alice Krieg.
The wonderful Alice Krieg.
The delight in person.
A mother and son team of strange supernatural creatures move to a small town to seek out a young virgin to feed on. So, like I said, this was based on a Stephen King script. I don't believe it was originally a story. I think this was like a screenplay he wrote.
Yeah.
I remember having a lukewarm feeling towards it. So I'd have to revisit this one to see if I really liked it or not. But I mean, again, that was 1992. I was a youngin' back then.
Yeah, I see. I saw it in the theater because I had a major, major crush on Machen Amick. So I had to go see that in the theater. So, yeah. She still looks amazing, too, on Riverdale, too. She looks...
Yes. So... This one has a new audio commentary with director Mick Garris and actors Machen Amick and Brian Krause. A new Feline Trouble interview with director Mick Garris. A new When Charles Met Tanya, a conversation with actors Machen Amick and Brian Krause. A new Family Values interview with actress Alice Krieg. A new Feline Trouble, the effects of Stephen King's Sleepwalkers. Interviews with special makeup effects creator Tony Gardner and prosthetics designer Mike Smithson. Behind-the-scenes footage, theatrical trailer, TV spots, and a still gallery. So a packed disc for that movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? I mean, I dare call it a cult classic. It's not. I don't think it's that level, but it's on the fringe of that, I think. And I remember seeing it in the theater, and it was one of those movies that got a lot of chuckles throughout the movie.
It is kind of a silly-ish premise.
Yeah, but it was a fun movie. So, I mean... You know, do you fault it for that, for being fun as a horror film? If it's not all altogether scary, but still, I mean, I remember enjoying it. That's all I remember. I mean, I don't think it jumped to the top of my list after when I saw it, but I do know I enjoyed it.
I want this one just because of Mick Garris, because I'm a big Mick Garris fan.
Yeah.
So anything
you gotta start watching this show, Tim.
Yeah,
you gotta watch History of Horror. He's on there every week.
He's on every documentary and behind the scenes.
That's true. He is.
That's where
it's really not like an
I became
accomplishment.
such a fan of him because he's always popping up on those behind the scenes extras.
He's like a cool dude.
He's a really
cool
cool
watch
dude.
Him talk.
Yeah.
You know, he just looks like I could watch him just sit there and like he should have his own little channel on Shudder. You know, he just kind of talks.
Yeah, or it could be like those Yule logs, with the fireplace, but it's just Mick Garris sitting in a chair.
Did you see that? I forgot. We should have put this on the rundown. That what Shudder's doing with the ghoul log.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's
where I kind
brilliant
of thought
because
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to. If you don't know, they're basically just having a flickering pumpkin, Like, think Halloween, the opening credits, like that, for all through the nights. You could just put that on in the background. So, and I remember, this is coming from someone that for some reason, as a kid, I was obsessed with the Yule log. I don't know why. But maybe it's because as a kid, I was living in an apartment both for most of my childhood, so like a fireplace to me was really cool. I don't know. But I used to watch the Yule log. And actually, one year, as crazy as it sounds, I think I videotaped 2 hours of it.
Oh my gosh!
As if, like that makes sense since it's on like 24 hours straight every year. But at the time, so the Gulag, I think that's right. They took like a pun right out of me and Tim's book too.
Yeah, we should be writers for them. Yeah,
I know we should.
Next up is Revenge of the Dead from 1983. This is a Code Red release, directed by Pupi Avati. Pupi. I don't know. Oh, are they just making these names up to make us laugh? I don't know.
Yeah, I really think some people like sneak in and like hack your IMDb.
They must. I don't know. We'll just call him Mr. Avati. So, Gabriel Levia, Ann Canovas, and Paola Tenziani.
Yeah.
Stefano, a young journalist, buys a used typewriter and accidentally sees that some text is still readable on the ribbon. He manages to reconstruct the story of a scientist, Paolo Zader, who in the 1950s discovered that some types of terrain have the power to revive the dead that are buried in them. Pet cemetery.
Yeah, I know.
Stefano's investigations bring him in contact with a group of renegade scientists that are still making experiments to prove Zader's theories.
It's like a mix of Pet Cemetery and like the Hydra.
Yeah.
They hit the Marvel movies.
That's a big ribbon you have to do to reconstruct the entire story.
Yeah, and what made him read it? Because isn't like ribbons just like on old typewriters? They always seem to take like the imprints of that. I don't know.
But if you like typewriters and zombies,
yes,
you might enjoy that one. No special features mentioned on that one.
It's so amazing. The special features just don't need it.
Yeah, the movie speaks for itself.
It does.
The next one up is called Mara or Mara. Mara, however you choose to pronounce
Mara.
that.
Yeah.
From 2018, released by Lionsgate, directed by Clive Tong, starring Olga Kurylenko, Craig Conway, and Javier Botet.
How did Craig Conway get in there? It seems like the other names are so like fanciful.
Yeah.
Him.
Criminal psychologist Kate Fuller is assigned to the murder of a man who has seemingly been strangled in his sleep by his wife, and the only witness is their 8-year-old daughter Sophie. As Kate digs into the mystery of an ancient demon which kills people in their sleep. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I know.
She experiences the same petrifying symptoms as all previous victims and spirals through a chilling nightmare to save herself and Sophie. I almost said Sophia. And Sophie before she dares fall asleep again.
Yeah, that just gets more Nightmare on Elm Street, including that they actually use the word nightmare in it.
This has a special feature, Mara, A Legacy of Evil featurette. So
yeah. Oh, and speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, again, I think we're off our game with this first chop because we left out a couple of things. But if you have not seen yet, the Goldbergs episode with Robert Englund was classic. And it was so great to see him donning the Freddy Krueger makeup again.
Yes, I need to go check that out. I really need to watch that.
Yeah. It shows he still got it. Should he go? And then, there were rumors where he, as usual, he makes a comment in an interview, and it blows out of proportion where everyone is going to be oh, he's got one more in Elm Street. He says he's going to do one more, and by next week it'll already have an announcement date before anyone's actually ever announced it.
All right, so finally we have All Light Will End from 2018, released by Gravitas Ventures, directed by Chris Blake, starring Andy Buckley, Sarah Butler, and John Schupp.
Sarah Butler, she's the one that was in the isn't she the one in the remakes of I Spit on Your Grave? I think that's her.
Okay,
she's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like her. She's good. She's a good actress.
When a capricious young author hiding a dark secret returns home for her brother's graduation, she finds herself haunted by the past and tormented by grimly night terrors. Grimly?
Yeah,
it's a weird word, I must say.
Maybe it's supposed to be grimy. Grimly. I just got that. Your invitation. That's a good old Ed Grimley.
Oh, we're showing our age.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that was my Ed Grimley impression. Thank you. No special features on that one either, and no theatrical releases this week.
But maybe if whoever buys that, contact Tim and he'll do an Ed Grimley commentary
That's
for
right.
you on it.
A very bad Ed Grimley impression commentary for 2 hours straight.
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I thought you did a good job.
Okay. We'll have to bring him back one day.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, on to our horror movie challenge, because we watched a ton of movies. Man, I had a blast this year with this challenge. For some reason, even though we had kind of a shorter-ish time span to come up with this one and to do it, I really had more fun with this one than I did last year.
Yeah, you did a good. Well, yeah, me too. Especially because I remember I realized why I didn't do it last year. I remember I had to go out to California for the wedding, and I was moving in the middle of that. So I was like, this time there was no, things like that nature that was blocking me from able to really be watching this stuff. So yeah, so I really enjoyed it this year. But I will have to say, Tim, you did a fantastic job of whipping that thing together within like a day.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that helped this year was we simplified it a lot. If you remember last year, we had like a very specific requirement for each day. And I think it got kind of tedious choosing which films to do. Whereas this one, you had a lot more leeway into picking your movies because the categories were a little broader. And even though the weeks had a consistent theme, I think you had a lot more flexibility in terms of what you watched. So I think that made it a little more fun because that pressure of picking the film wasn't there.
Right, and I think I wonder how you guys let us know how you feel about this too, because we could repeat this part of the format next year for sure. Did you guys like as we announced it by week, so you kind of had like your week assignment given to you at the beginning of the week, and you didn't have to we knew the whole thing ahead, but you guys actually out there just kind of heard it in a week span, and I don't know if that helped or hindered it for you, but I kind of like that format.
I'm guessing we had a little bit of an advantage knowing what's ahead, because people sometimes have to skip ahead depending on their schedules and how things are going. So I think my guess is the listeners would want it all up front so that they could jump around if they wanted to. But we'll see how it goes. We'll listen to your feedback and see what you say.
Let us know. And I know Cody. Oh, speaking of Cody, I believe, I don't know the exact date. So Cody, sorry about this one, but apparently it was her birthday. So happy birthday, Cody.
Happy birthday, Cody.
And yeah, and what I was going to say though is that she once again kicked butt in this challenge.
That's right.
Giving Tim and I a run for our money. She was keeping up with us neck and neck there. So,
and I really fell down on the job because somewhere along the way I forgot to keep tweeting my picks. And Brian, thank you for doing the great Instagram post, because you were putting nice posters up and everything, and I was sitting there just doing these little text tweets, and then I even fell off of that halfway through it, so it was pretty bad.
Oh well, yeah, I saw someone else do that. I was not. I'm not going to take credit for that idea, but I kind of thought it was a cool idea to do that, because it kind of, especially for us who we love box art and we love the how movies, and I think it also gives it a nice, an extra element to like why I may have picked that one.
Right.
And in fact, as I go into one of the descriptions on one, the box art specifically made me pick this movie, and it was funny, but as I saw other reviews of it, was much to the chagrin of others who expected something more from the movie based off the box art. So I thought that was kind of a little fun thing to add that I saw from some other site that was doing a challenge, and so sorry I cannot. I don't remember which site it was, but I thought that was a cool idea, so I kind of borrowed it.
So for talking about these movies, Brian, what I was thinking we could do is kind of go one by one, movies from the 60s. So I'll tell you what I picked and maybe one or two lines about it, and then you tell me your 60s pick and one or two lines about it. And then we get through the whole week, we'll go back and tell each other what our favorites were from that week, and maybe go into a little more detail on that particular film, and maybe what the worst one was for that week.
Right, yeah, that sounds good.
But that way we get to cover all of them, because they really are great. I mean, most of mine, I will say, I did not have a lot of clunkers in this group. Most of these were really, really good. So first up, our first week was Decades of Doom. So we were asking everybody to watch a movie from a different decade, starting with the 1960s. So for my 1960s movie, I chose The Raven. This is loosely based on the Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Raven, and it's sort of a horror comedy, and it stars the late great Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, and it is a really bizarre but fun fun movie about a sorcerer who gets turned into the titular Raven, and Vincent Price has to help him escape his fate or whatever. But it's really strange movie with a really weird mix of horror and comedy.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a theme of these 60s movies. It was similar to the one I watched, in terms of weirdness. It was called Dungeon of Harrow. And it was about like this guy that gets washed up on this island after a shipwreck. And, there's like this count that lives on the island with all these weird, bizarro family members and stuff. And it's funny because it was so long ago, I feel like, in the challenge. I'm like struggling to remember all the pieces of it, except one of the characters' name was it was something Fallon, and they kept calling him Mr. Fallon, and all I could picture is Jimmy Fallon, like if he played that role, and how different the movie would have been. But it was like really bad effects for the time, and it was really just a weird kind of movie. But like the same thing as I enjoyed it because of its weirdness at the same time. I just wish I remembered it a little better because that's the hard part, is when you've seen so many movies in such a short time. The earlier ones sometimes may kind of if they're not super memorable and blow you away, it's hard for me, I think, for me personally, to remember any more details than I just said.
Yeah, that's true with some of these, for sure. Now, for my 1970s, I chose one I had always wanted to see but never got a chance to, and that is Horror Express from 1972. This is a Peter Cushing film, and imagine if the crate from Creepshow was being transported on a train, and somehow that thing got loose. That's basically what Horror Express is. So this is a really, really cool film from the early 70s, and if you're a big Peter Cushing fan like I am, you're going to love this one.
Oh, well, that's cool. I mean, anything with Peter Cushing, pretty much.
And Christopher Lee. I can't leave him
out.
Oh,
and Christopher Lee. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, so that's even... Oh, yeah. So anytime they're in that, you can't go wrong with that one. So my 70s one was House of Seven Corpses.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Yeah, this one was pretty interesting. It was cool. It was like one of those horror movies where they're filming a movie within. They had some really cool like premises to it. And again, it's like I don't remember as many details as I would have liked at this point. I just remember pretty much I really enjoyed this one when I watched it. It had some cool creepy moments it was just like, something about those 60s and 70s movies are like, there's just this like cool feeling to them. I don't know, whether you like them or not, whether the movie ends up being good, there's something about them that just is engaging to me. Yeah, I don't know why.
It's easily my favorite decade. It just is. I don't know why. I grew up as a child of the 80s, so why do I prefer 70s movies? I don't know, but yeah, I don't. They just appeal to me.
Oh, you know what? The one thing I do remember, there was a little bit of it kind of reminded me a little bit of like the Creepshow vibe when like the creature in this came out from the grave, and they kept cutting back to it, like kind of like the birthday one.
Yeah, you're right. It really does have that.
So it kind of reminded me of that. So that could be an homage to that. Creepshow might have did a little homage to that one, and I was like, this one looks really familiar. And and then there was the hand coming out of the grave. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of little things that like I think little horror movies borrowed, and it may have been from this one. So
yeah. For the 1980s, I chose an early slasher from 1980 called Fade to Black. And this was a very interesting film. It's about this, I say kid, he's a young man who is obsessed with horror movies. He loves horror films. And he gets spurned by a girl. He's obsessed with Marilyn Monroe for some reason. And he meets this girl, runs into this girl in a diner that looks exactly like Marilyn Monroe. And he becomes obsessed with her. And she basically stiffs him on a date. And it's really an accident. It's not really her fault. But he gets spurned and becomes essentially a killer who dresses up as different horror movie icons. Or not necessarily horror movie icons, just old movie icons. And he starts killing people while dressed as these particular figures. So it was really, really interesting film. I definitely recommend that. Fade to Black, 1980.
Oh, yeah, that one sounds really cool, actually. I might have to check that out. Which one was that on? Was that on Shudder or?
I don't remember. I do not remember. It's on one of the free services, though.
It's funny, this sequence, this first week, I didn't include that either. It's funny, all the ones, the subsequent ones, I put what I watched it on in case it was asked. And for these, I forgot too. I think a lot of, but you're right. It's all on free services that I used on these. But so my 80s one is, and I think I got pretty 80s with this one. It was the horror comedy Terror Vision.
Yes.
Did you ever see that
Oh
one?
my gosh, craziest movie ever.
Yeah, it really was. It was with that alien comes out, and it's like the family kind of like, even though their parents and like grandfather was eaten by this thing, like and there's that whole weird S&M thing going on, and the swinger thing they got going on with.
It's almost like a live action cartoon.
It is, and and like a little bit of a like that that movie Stay Tuned, where they like the TV channels they can get everything, but. It's just got some classic 80s people in it, like Mary Warrenoff and Diane Franklin. And just, and it's like, they the alien in it is like that cheesy 80s alien effect.
Yeah.
Almost looks like the thing from a little bit from Weird Science, remember? Where they turned them into?
Yes.
But yeah, this one was a doozy. This one was it's one of those, like Tim said, it literally is like a cartoon. But it was fun, though. It was like one of those ones you can't help, like, having a smile through it. How cheesy and silly it is.
Yeah, it's a bizarre movie.
Yeah.
Recommended.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you have not seen it yet, it's one of those ones that with the box art that I would always see, and I was like just never got around to watching it, which was kind of good. Oh, and we should say, just a reminder that I know Tim and I made it a goal that we were going to pick movies that we had not seen yet.
Right, yes.
So
I had not seen any of these.
That's always a plus. Yeah, me either. So it's like, at least if I did, it was so long ago, I have no recollection of it. But I know I did not see these, the Terrorvision, for sure.
Next up, 1990s. I cannot believe this movie was made this late in the decades. But Uncle Sam from 1996. This one is a slasher featuring an army vet who is killed by friendly fire and comes back to life as Uncle Sam and invades a patriotism festival, July 4th type thing in this town to get revenge. And it is every bit as campy and weird as you might expect, but oddly enough, I kind of enjoyed it.
Well, sometimes you do, sometimes you can there's just movies, no matter how bad they are, you're going to enjoy it.
It's like there's a sequence where one sequence where he basically hangs a guy from a flagpole and raises him up like an American flag. I mean, it's that kind of movie.
Was that the one where it was like the box art was him going like, he wants you to be dead? Or
yes,
something like that?
Yes. It's got the classic Uncle Sam box art. There's something weirdly charming about this one. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one years ago. Like, I think they used to hit the cable circuits every so often, or I may even rented it, for God's sake, for all I know. I mean, there was a time where I was renting all those kind of things like that, of course, so that may have been one. Well, it's funny you said that you were surprised it was so late in the time period, and I think that's the same for mine, because I saw Mirror. No, it's not the Julia Roberts one. It was this one was in the 90s, and I could have sworn this thing could have easily been early 80s, and you would not have known the difference. This one was just... I put a little note on here. I just wrote terrible bore because first of all, the actress that they got, the main actress, was literally like this had to have been intentional. She looked exactly like Winona Ryder did in Beetlejuice. And it's like she moves into this old house, and she's like the outcast girl. She's got one nice friend that kind of that latches on and kind of wants to be her friend. But again, of course, there's the popular girl, the cheerleader that picks on her, and that whole nonsense. And it was just so this mirror she gets now can give her some kind of powers, and I guess so she can kill people, and eventually it becomes to where she can like just start causing death even though she's not in front of the mirror. And I'm like, well, what's the point of being called Mirror? And it's like, the saving grace, and the only reason why I think I actually decided to sit through this more is because Karen Black was in it, and I'll watch anything with her in it. She played the mom in it, and actually there was a small role by Yvonne DiCarlo. So it had a couple of classic people in there that kind of saved it, and it did have Stephen Tobolowsky in it. Remember from Groundhog's Day?
Yeah,
Ned Ryerson.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah. So he was in it, and he he was like the kind of mean teacher. But so it was just so bad. That's probably like the biggest dud of one of the biggest duds, if not the biggest dud in the whole challenge for me. So,
well, I've got a pretty big dud here too. So my 2000s movie was House of Fears from 2007, and I was intrigued by this one because it's about these kids that break into a haunted wax museum type thing. So, that sounds cool, right? And take the most generic, boring teen characters you can imagine from all of those early 2000s and late 90s horror films and stick them in this house and have really boring things happen to them, and that's what you get, House of Fears. I just thought this one was just completely mediocre in every way, shape, and form.
So, yeah, my one was, it was a little better, I guess, and you know how I love, and we both love, the indie horror scene here. So this was an indie horror film called Flicker, and I think its biggest fault was not anything about a low budget or bad effects or bad acting. It was I don't think it if it knew what it was trying to be. Like, it tried to have an indie feel, but it also tried to have this like, I don't know, this kind of almost like a found footagey feel, even though it wasn't found footage. It just kept doing these flashbacks, and I don't know. It was just a weird kind of like movie. Like, I think it tried to be too crafty and too many twists in it and surprises that really were not surprises, or if they were, you didn't care about them. But it was just interesting. But the whole thing with Flicker was because I guess the main character, her name was Pretty, by the way, and so she was. It was like something about how like, I guess she had her mom or grandmother used to give her a saying like, oh, when there's all hope is lost, there's always a flicker of hope or something.
Oh gosh.
So it was just, it just tried to be a little too much. Like, I don't think it knew what it wanted to be, and I think that was the problem of it. But you know what? Like, it held my interest long enough. It just, I don't know. Like, there was too many things styles of movie it tried to be in one, and it doesn't always work.
So my 2010s, I've already talked about on the show. That was Satan's Slaves from 2017.
Oh, yeah.
So this is that Indonesian ghost film. Highly recommended. It was pretty awesome. Go back a couple episodes if you want to hear my thoughts on it. But that was Satan's Slaves. That was a great one.
Yeah, and so I watched this one, and I expect the box art was always cool. It's called Bedeviled and it's in my 2000s or 2010s, I guess I should say, and. So it has that creepy guy on the box art. If you saw it, you'll know what I mean. It's like a little, like, he almost looks like a mannequin clown kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah. So this was something that Tim and I always said was what we would find as problems when you date your horror movie. Like, this one was about this app that kind of like is responsible for getting everybody killed. So once I realized that was the premise of it, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But for some reason, it didn't suck. Like, it didn't. I mean, was it a piece of art? No, but it actually it was interesting enough, and it held my interest enough to not be as bad as I thought. So it's an overused premise, of course, just updated to apps now as opposed to whatever it used to be, like a phone or a book or whatever. But
yeah, if I recall, I hated the premise of that one in terms of the app stuff. But I think the creepy sequences, there were some really good creepy sequences in it.
Yeah, that's, I think, what did it. I think that's what saved it.
Yeah, if you could just ignore the premise and just focus on the creepy stuff, you'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it had the typical horror cliches, especially of that the horror tropes of that type of premise, but I think maybe the people were in it were likable enough that it made it. Like I remember the one scene where the guy's getting like chased in the garage was creepy. It was like a bunch of really great sequences with not the best premise, I guess. Right.
Yeah, I don't like any. And being an IT guy, I don't like any movies based on technology because the flaws in it are just so glaring to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's true with anybody that's their field of expertise, and then they see a movie about it. They always take so many liberties with it. But
right.
Okay, so what were your favorites and your worst from that? My favorite in this bunch, I wanted to say Satan's Slaves because that was easily the scariest film of the bunch. But I have to go with my heart, and my heart says the 70s Horror Express from 1972. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, you can't go wrong with that. I just love the whole vibe of this movie, so I'm going to go with Horror Express as my favorite.
What was your worst?
My worst was definitely House of Fears. Just bland and mediocre in every way.
Yeah. Well, my worst, as of no surprise, I already said it. It was Mirror Mirror. But the best, I'm kind of torn. So I think if I have to give the edge just because of, I think, the time period and what after seeing it, what it may have inspired in other movies, I'll give it to House of Seven Corpses. Although I gotta tell you, behind it not too far behind is Bedeviled, believe it or not. I mean, granted, out of this, like, I think Bedeviled would not probably stand up as high in other categories here.
Mm-hmm.
But for this one, I mean, and what, it's funny, it's like part of me, like, I have the soft spot for TerrorVision too, but, I was trying to pick something like, something I think with a little more substance, that's all. So.
Yeah. So the next week was Creature Features, and in this one we asked you to watch various movies featuring different kinds of horror creatures. And the first one up was the werewolf movie. So for this one, I picked Wolf Cop from 2014. This is one that's been on my want-to-watch list for quite some time now, and I was not disappointed. This one was absolutely fantastic. Lots of fun, lots of great effects in it. Even though the premise sounds kind of silly, I'm kicking myself that I didn't watch this one sooner, because the premise is supposed to be silly, but they do just such a great job with it, and they don't make it so campy that it's self-parodying. It's actually a really, really smart film, and I loved it. Wolf Cop from 2014.
Yeah. So mine was called Crying Wolf, and this is the one I kind of teased earlier where I said, the box art looked amazing. It looked like this giant, like, wolf, like, over this town. And so that appealed to me right away, but it turned out it was kind of like an over-the-top horror, like, subtle comedy kind of thing. Where, but it did it, Tim and I already mentioned, if you're going to go horror comedy and over-the-top gore, do it the way. And they did. It was totally over-the-top gore. It had some classic, hilarious little characters in it. And it's basically about this, there's this whole premise, without trying to give it away, because I don't want to spoil it if you guys go to watch this, because I definitely recommend this. But the basic premise is there's this group of werewolves that are basically going on this tour. They hire a tour guide to basically take them out on this camping trip, and you realize they're all werewolves, but the tour guides actually have their own agenda, and they know they're werewolves, and they're out to trap these specific werewolves for, which I won't say, so you can see the whole backstory, but it's actually really fun, and I saw so many people bash this movie, and a lot of them I saw say because the box art made it look like it was this really frightening werewolf tale, but I'm like, if you read the description of it, you should know that that's not what you're going to get with this, but I loved it. I thought it was so much fun, and it's like one of those ones that I totally buy if it gets released on Blu-ray. Like, if I see it on our Discmemberment one week and I know it's coming out, like, it may be out, I just didn't do the full research yet, but if I see it out, I would totally buy it. I liked it.
Cool.
And I think you'd love it too. It had some good, really funny, like, gory scenes in it, which is great.
For my vampire movie, which was up next, I chose a kind of an oddball choice. This was Vampire's Kiss from 1988, the infamous Nicolas Cage vehicle that I have not seen. I had not seen this one. As much as a Nick Cage fan as I am and how crazy he is, this one had somehow slipped under my radar. Let me tell you, this does not disappoint. He is batshit crazy in this movie, pardon my French, but this is full-blown 100% Nicolas Cage doing his thing, and I love this movie so much. I don't know if you really can classify it as horror per se. Maybe I fudged it a little bit, but does have a vampire, so
yeah, it does say watch a vampire movie.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going with. So yeah, Vampire's Kiss, 1988, wonderful.
And this may have been like the Nicolas Cage like meme beginnings.
It had to be
with his stuff. So yeah, this is like him, but. So, my vampire one is one I never even heard of. It's called Living Among Us, and it's a found footage vampire movie where the premise is it's in a time kind of like a little bit like True Blood, where vampires are kind of known, and it's like they're so the world knows about these vampires. So they're trying to get a better image of themselves because they want to shed that image of that they go out and hunt and kill people. And they're kind of, their premise is that, they get donations from blood banks and they don't need to, they're just like a modern vampire type of thing. So they basically, this news crew goes in to document and interview this family and they spend with them. And, it's a found footage movie, so you could just imagine, it's like typical found footage where it builds and builds into what happens, but it's so good. I loved it. I was so surprised that, one, that I haven't heard of it before, and two, how much I enjoyed it. And it's got Thomas Ian Nicholas, from American Pie and Rookie of the Year. He's like the main guy in it, and William Sadler's in it. So it's and John Hurd. So it's now they're not the same person, in case some people knew that. And maybe one of John Hurd's last roles, actually.
Wow.
Although I heard it was released recently, this past year, but I think it was filmed a couple of years ago. So, but it's really good.
Yeah, that one from your list was one of the top ones that I really wanted to see. When you started talking about it, just sounded such a cool premise.
Oh, it is. It really is. It's such a high recommend. I've been telling everybody that'll listen, basically, to watch this one after I saw it.
So next up, we had a zombie movie, and I picked, appropriately enough, a movie called Zombie from 1979. This is, of course, a Fulci film, probably the zombie film that he is best known for. And man, this one's fantastic. This is one I had owned this DVD for, probably 15 years at least, and have never watched it. And I finally dusted that thing off. And
wait, how did that escape your backlog project?
Because I'm only doing my Blu-rays.
Oh, right.
So this was kind of a DVD just kind of been shoved in the back of the shelf, and it's just moved around with me everywhere, and I just never watched it. And it became, actually, there's a story behind that DVD. I bought it from a guy online and from one of the forums I knew, and he said, "You got to watch this movie." And I said, "Well, and I bought it from him." And then every now and again he would check back in, "Hey, did you watch Zombie yet?" And I'd say, "No, I hadn't got around to it yet." And it became this almost joke where I couldn't watch it because then it would ruin the whole thing of him checking in on me and me not being able to tell him, "No, I haven't watched it yet." It became this long running
that's
joke.
Like my brother in Titanic. He just won't watch it.
Yeah, it stretched out for years, literally. He would ask me years later and say, "Did you ever watch Zombie?" I'm like, "Nope. I still haven't watched it." So that's
hopefully he's not listening, because now I ruined it.
No, so but anyway, Zombie, great. Typical Fulci zombies are just really creepy and weird, and they kind of invade America in this one, which is kind of cool to see these Italian zombies coming on into the shores of America. So that one's highly recommended. Zombie from 1979.
And going the other way for my pick was I watched a movie that I was long awaiting to see, which was Day of the Dead Bloodline. And this thing was a turd. I was so disappointed. This is probably, out of all the ones I saw, the most disappointing one, because I'm like, how could it be bad? I heard, I remember when it was announced, it sounded really cool. This was so stupid scene after stupid scene. I just could not. I was part of me at one point, halfway through, and I had read the reviews, and so far it was living up to everything it said at that point. And I was just like, do I just stop and watch something else at this point? But it was so short. It was it was only an hour and a half, and I was 45 minutes in. I'm like, at that point, I was day for day with the challenge. I'm like, I was running out of time, and I'm just like, forget it. I'll just watch the end of this. And oh, just so bad. And the funny thing is, the first opening sequence had some promise, but that was it. The first 5 minutes was it, and that was it. It was a turd.
Well, next up we had a ghost movie, and I chose one called The Echo from 2008. And this one was frustrating because I'm starting to see a pattern here with these mid 2000s horror movies were just so dull and drab and bland. And this one kind of had elements of that. There were some kind of cool scenes in it. So I don't want to say it was as bad as some of those, but it's basically about this guy that moves into this apartment. He's had some troubles. I think he had some run-ins with the law, but at any rate, he starts experiencing some strange goings on in his apartment. He hears noises. He hears people fighting when there's nobody fighting, and kind of questions his own sanity. And there's some haunting stuff in here. So it's kind of a ghost movie, but it's very claustrophobic too, in that it all takes place in this one apartment. So you never really get to see anything outside of that. So if it's kind of hampered the movie, in my opinion. Just seemed a little too claustrophobic for me. And then again, it also had that kind of dull mid 2000s aesthetic where it's just kind of just drab and boring and tedious and stuff. But there were some creepy scenes, so I can't wholly not recommend it either. So I don't know. You have to check it out and see what you think. The Echo from 2008.
Yeah, mine. I think I fared better on that one. It was a movie called The Tag Along, and I actually want to watch the sequel, which they made. It's a super like really creepy ghost story from Taiwan, and it's supposedly based off of a true legend. I don't want to go too much into the plot because I think that's one of the coolest things is that you're a little confused in the beginning, and you get little bits along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you. So I'm just gonna say it's really good, and it's definitely something that if you like creepy ghost stories like that, watch it.
That sounds cool.
It's really good. Yeah. It's like one of those. There's certain movies that just you don't want to go too much into it because you want to let it play out for itself. This is one of them.
Cool.
I'm definitely anxious to see the sequel because that one seems really cool.
Well, for my giant monster movie, I could not help but watch a Tremors movie. So I watched Tremors, A Cold Day in Hell from 2018. This is the latest entry in the franchise. Now, I have not seen all of the Tremor movies, but I figured I could probably pick up on the plot, which I could.
I don't think they change much.
I mean, even though this does have some recurring characters that I was not familiar with, that franchise fans would be familiar with, I kind of picked up on it, and this one is a little misleading. So, of course, the box art shows these worms popping up through snow and ice, and you think, oh, man, that's super cool. Well, that's about the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then they cheat by setting this in an Arctic, which has been succumbed to global warming, so there's no more snow or ice. So you could tell it was kind of filmed out in California somewhere.
They run out of budget of fake snow.
But it's still a Tremors movie. It's still a lot of fun. The worm effects are still good as they've ever been in the Tremors films. So I actually kind of enjoyed this one. It's kind of fun. Even though I will say I was very disappointed we didn't get snow worms, which is what I was wanting. But oh well.
Is that a Kickstarter for us?
Yeah, I want a Tremors Cold Day in Hell in actual snow. So somebody make that happen, please.
That'll be in the next one. So for my giant monster movie, there's no better to watch a classic giant monster movie than one of those those rubber suit monster ones.
Right.
So I watched one that was on Shudder, even though I heard. So I'm sorry, Amazon Prime. I heard that this one, the version of it was cut. It was pretty short, so that makes sense. But I'm like, what more do you need into this film? But it's called Varan the Unbelievable. And it's just one of those typical, it's just one of those classic things. But I got to tell you, for the effects of the time for rubber monster suit movies, it goes pretty well. I mean, it's definitely, you can tell the time period because the way the guy and the his wife is so submissive to the husband, and it acts normal, like you could just tell the time period would not be acceptable today.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was just, nothing more to say about it. It's just fun. If you like those kind of things, this is a great entry into that genre.
All right, so the next one up was a sea creature movie, and for this one I chose kind of an oddball pick as well. This one was called Up from the Depths, and it's from 1979, and it's about killer fish invading a tourist resort in Hawaii. And let me tell you, this movie was pretty bad. It's definitely a kind of a Jaws type knockoff. The problem is the killer fish don't really feature much in this movie. It seems more like an advertisement for the Hawaiian tourism industry from the 70s. It's more Hawaiian tourism from the 70s than you could ever want to know.
But yet the killer fish weren't a detriment to that.
I mean, it's all the flowered shirts and leis and cookouts and everything you would ever want to see in a Hawaiian movie. And I actually kind of enjoyed it because I thought it was funny, like seeing all the 70s fashions and stuff that were...
Was Don Ho in it at all?
No, but I mean, he could have stepped right in frame and I wouldn't have batted an eye. I mean, it's that kind of...
And that's how well it was?
Kind of that total cheesy 70s Hawaiian vibe where that was like all the rage, going to Hawaii was the big thing. So it's just chock full of that. But the killer fish are almost secondary to that.
So I the one I saw was, and I have to say there was a little selfish reason I chose this purposely because I wanted to tell the scenes and torture Steve Cohn, who's afraid of octopus, and it was it was Octopus, the movie. It was like totally made for TV quality.
Nice.
Like in fact, it must have been a made for TV movie, I think, because it's the way it started off. And it started off like when I'm watching this, I thought I may have selected the wrong movie because it starts with this whole like terrorist plot going on. Where they're in some country and there's like, I guess his agent who's not very good at his job. I don't know. I can't figure out what what the whole thing, but there's like, I think it's like a half hour into it before you even get to an octopus. But and so basically the long story short is he ends up on a submarine with this guy that's, I guess, it's like his third time. I almost wanted to tell Ken to see this movie because it's like, I guess the commander of the submarine is like, he already sunk like 2 subs already, so they're like setting him up for like disaster. And so anyway, so this agent ends up having to transport this criminal that he finally catches, like in this drawn out opening sequence, and he's got to like bring him. I guess he's got to travel him on the submarine to somewhere, and they eventually get attacked by this giant octopus, which then attacks a giant cruise ship that they escape on. And there's this weird, like, female scientist on board that loves taking her clothes off, and it's just a very bizarre, weird movie. And, you know, I think if it wasn't so fun to describe, it would have been the worst thing, one of the worst things I've seen. And I described it, I think, in my post about it. I said 8 legs, 8 times the bad.
Nice.
But yeah, but it was still enough that probably would have freaked Cone out.
Nice. With
some of the effects. So Cone, go watch it and get scared.
So for October 13th, we had an alien movie. This one was kind of difficult because I had to find an alien movie that was still classified as somewhat horror-y.
Yeah, because they're not all.
No, a lot of them are just strictly sci-fi.
Right, you could blend way too much into sci-fi if you're not careful.
But this one, even though it sounded like it was way too sci-fi, it was actually listed under horror on IMDb, even though it's horror sci-fi. And this one is the oldest movie on my list, from 1953, Invaders from Mars, the original classic. So, and this was remade in the 80s, right? I believe. But this one was a lot of fun. It really felt like a Twilight Zone episode, extended out, or maybe an Outer Limits episode or something. It just kind of had that same feel to it. The effects were pretty cheesy for the time, but it was actually very entertaining. I really, really liked this one. I did find a fun little bit of trivia. There's these like bubble things in the walls of the alien's lair, and they said they made those out of condoms. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Little trivia. Invaders from Mars, 1953. I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah, so mine was I think I might have got stuck again with someone that was like, it looked like it might have been made for TV, but probably sci-fi, because it was definitely there was a lot of gore in it for it to be on regular TV. It was called Thirst. I don't know if you saw that. It's about like this group of, I guess, this couple that owns a rehabilitation for like troubled kids. And it kind of reminded me of like Freddy's Dead, where they were all like these troubled kids get there and they start getting. They're on this camping trip and they kind of get attacked by this alien that sucks their blood out of the bodies and stuff. And it was, it was fun. It was definitely like, it's definitely entertaining and stuff. But, I mean, is it a classic? By no means no, but it fit the horror alien genre for sure. Because it was like almost like it was almost like a slasher film, but with this alien. So the way I look at it is like, if you find that model, I guess it definitely counts as horror more than sci-fi. So.
Yeah. Well, my favorite from this batch, I have to go with the Nicolas Cage Vampire's Kiss. This was definitely the movie I had the most fun with that I laughed the hardest at. So I've got to go with Vampire's Kiss as my favorite from this bunch. My worst, I'm going to have to go with... I've got to go with Up From the Depths, even though it was my 70s pick in here, or one of my 70s picks. And even though I found the echo kind of drab, Up From the Depths really just had no redeeming horror elements whatsoever. The killer fish, quote unquote, were just so laughably bad that I just didn't get any sense of fright out of this one whatsoever. And in a horror movie challenge, that's kind of what you need. So I'm going to go with Up From the Depths as my worst.
Yeah, so mine, this was actually tougher than I thought, but I'm just going to give it to because of the how surprised I was about the movie, and it's going to be Living Among Us as my best pick, with Crying Wolf and Tag Along kind of right behind it. And for by far the worst, I did No Secret again, Day of the Dead Bloodline, or Day of the Dead Turd Line. That was terrible. It actually infuriates me that I sat through that whole movie. And it's so funny. So many people agreed with me.
That's funny.
Even I think someone after I posted it, they said, "Oh God, yeah, this was terrible."
So next up was our World of Fear week, in which we asked you to watch horror movies from various parts of the world. And this one was by far the most difficult for me to figure out which films to watch, because there's a lot of times there's no real good filters on these streaming services to figure out where the movie is from.
Do you want to know a secret? What I did? I literally typed in Google horror movies from blank and the country, and like I kind of got like Wikipedia pages on it. So I would double check and confirm it on IMDb, the basis, but that's what I did. So I got a lot. It actually wasn't too bad. But I will say, I'm going to preface this by saying this may be one of. It's funny, these next 3 weeks were definitely the hardest to pick a best from, because these are some of my best movies that I've seen throughout. In this this World of Fear one was definitely one, and I think it lends itself to be because you could kind of pick the best from each country,
right? Yeah,
if you want. So
because you're not going to see most of their bad ones over here, you're going to see the good stuff. So.
You're going to get the creme de la creme. Yeah.
So my movie from the UK was Ghost Stories from 2017, and I really enjoyed this one. This was the anthology film starring Martin Freeman. I really, really wanted to see this one because A, it was an anthology, and B, it was British, and C,
a lot of people were promoting it too.
Yeah, a lot of people were. And of course, it's a ghost movie, so man, this one had some really, really creepy scenes. I saw some mixed reviews of this one, but I'll just absolutely love this movie. It had such a cool vibe. All the stories were pretty cool. I think the first segment had possibly the creepiest ghost stuff I've ever seen on film. To me, it just was super, super cool. So I highly recommend Ghost Stories from 2017.
Yeah, and so mine, I saw it, and this one, Tim, you have to watch it. If I have to send you my Showtime thing to watch this thing, it was Deathline, aka Raw Meat. So I got an AKA in there, even though it was not a challenge. So when I was looking this up, when I saw it was from the UK, starring Donald Pleasance, and a small role by Christopher Lee, that was a no-brainer. Yes. And this one was Donald Pleasance to the best. And the funniest thing is, so I started watching this, and Julie was out with me, and she was like, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this movie now for the challenge. She's like, oh, okay, I'll watch it with you. After about 5 minutes, she could not. She was like, Donald Pleasance was just yelling with such a heavy accent. She's like, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't know what he's saying. And so she just got up and she was like, that's it, I'm done. So but all that was what made me love it more. So it's like this really cool premise of this people are dying in this underground I guess the underground, whatever the transit is in London or the UK, I guess. And it was really cool because you didn't had Donald Pleasance, this crazy Scotland Yard cop or what? Oh no, he was, I guess, just a cop. It was the other guy with the Christopher Lee came from Scotland Yard, I think. But anyway, so it was basically this whole premise where they're trying to figure out why these these people are getting killed from under there, and it's like this weird guy is living down in the thing. You think it's almost like a zombie movie, but it's not. And in fact, I originally was going to try and put it for my zombie one till I realized I read a little more and realized it might not be a zombie film. But it's really, really good. It's like Donald Pleasance at his best.
Oh man, I got to see that then for sure.
Yeah,
any movie with Donald Pleasance yelling is a plus in my book.
Yeah, and you get all of that in this, and he's just funny, and you also get drunk yelling Donald Pleasance.
Oh yes,
and playing pinball. So you have to see this movie. I'm telling you, this is great. You gotta watch it. So it's listed under Deathline, on Showtime, but IMDb has it as Raw Meat, which was another reason why I was having trouble locating it. But it happened to be on Showtime app, and I was like, no way, that's amazing. Cool. This movie is on there, so I could watch it. But yeah, so I'll have to send you the thing for that so you can see that.
So my Japanese movie was Don't Look Up from 1996. Don't be confused by the remake, because they did make a remake in the late 2000s. But this one is by director Hideo Nakata, who did Ringu.
I was gonna say that's so
that's kind of why I wanted to see this one, because this movie predates that one. And it's a little rough around the edges. You could tell it has some of the little kind of first timer type movie rough edges, but it's really, really good. It's about a film crew that are filming this World War II drama, and they start to get some supernatural hauntings on the set. So it's kind of got that same meta thing that House of Seven Corpses had, but of course the traditional Japanese ghost creepiness stuff gets into it. So it's really, really good, really entertaining. You can see glimmers of Ringu, in it. You can see what was to come just a couple years later. But so I highly recommend that one. Don't Look Up from 1996.
Now, this is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit from earlier, but my Japanese movie was Death Tube, Broadcast Murder Show. And this thing was so awesome. So it was, how I said kind of like I hate when like a technology kind of thing kind of dates yourself a little bit.
Right.
So this was obviously a play off of YouTube and viral videos. It's basically, there's this channel called Death Tube that people watch and they love it, and they're always commenting like, with like little things on it where it literally shows supposedly it's real death on it, but now people are not, it's kind of, it opens with the question of, is it real, is it staged, is it what's the what's the deal, should you try and stop it, and like some, the guy in the beginning already says, like, tries to convince his friend out of it. He's like, no, because the police just have been called on this before, and they can't find the servers anyway, and they keep switching it, kind of thing. But basically, this guy gets then trapped in this game. He wakes up and he's in the room with people, so it's very Saw-esque.
Okay.
Where you got a lot of people in this room, and they keep getting these challenges, but it's done by these like weird like costumed characters that come out that's like this funny music comes out, and they give them these like weird games, and they're like, it's like, if you don't finish, if you're the last person, you're gonna die, and it's like super like funny and creepy at the same time. So they have to basically, the whole thing is to to be the last one to survive, but it gets really dark at the same time as it's being kind of a little goofy in there with those characters. But some of the things get really dark and like cutthroat because they all these people are trying to like survive, so you can imagine what it gets. And the whole time you see people like little like those like pop-up video things of people commenting from afar, like I guess saying like, oh, she's stupid, kill her,
Yeah.
But it's really, really cool. It's really well done, and they actually have a sequel to it that I need to watch now also. So
cool.
But it was really a fun, entertaining movie.
Now, the next one up, I think, Brian, we overlapped on the same week. This was Revenge from France.
I'm telling you, this was like 3 in a row that I loved, and this one was and followed the next one even. So it's going to have 4 in a row that I absolutely love. But this one, Revenge was all I heard was how good this one was. And, when I heard about it, I'm just like, it's a revenge flick. I mean, we've seen this before.
Right.
We've seen it a million times. We've seen remakes of the revenge. But I got to tell you, this one was so, really stood out. I mean, just the performances and the cinematography on this.
Yeah, it was a beautiful film to look at, for sure.
Yeah, which is kind of weird to say when you think about a woman being basically raped and tortured and then coming back and seeking revenge. But it's literally what it is. It's like an amazingly shot movie, and it's just like it's Matilda Lutz. You recognize what she was from? I knew she looked familiar. She was the one in Rings. She was the girl in
okay.
Rings.
Yeah, I knew she looked familiar, but I just could not place her.
I'm sorry. It's Ingrid Matilda Lutz. I said Matilda. I think it's Ingrid Matilda Lutz. She is fantastic in this. I think if this could have been like kind of like a joke of a film, even with the greatness, if that role was not played by someone with really good chops to it, and she had that.
Right.
Because I thought it was really, really good. And some of the gore scenes, oh my god!
Yeah,
it was like
very extreme gore, but it's really entertaining.
Oh yeah,
and it's one of those. It's not a huge body count by any means.
No,
it's a very
not.
Very small, stripped down revenge film in terms of that, but it's just so good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, no one dies easy.
No, that's for sure.
There was the longest drawn out deaths, I swear. But it's and it is gripping and exciting, and it's never dull at any moment.
No, it was really really good.
It's really, really good. It was and it was one that's like always been on my list to watch because I've heard nothing but amazing things about it, and it's always I see it on Shudder, like sitting there, like in the in the newly added. And I finally watched it for this challenge, and I'm so glad I did because I loved it.
Well, my next one up is the one from Korea, and this is another one where I always would see the box art as I was scrolling past on these streaming services, and I would never watch it, but I'm so glad I finally watched this one. This one is A Tale of Two Sisters from 2003.
Oh yeah, I've seen the art for that.
Yeah. Oh man, great movie. Very, very psychological horror. I mean, this one had so many twists and turns. Very creepy. It's about two sisters that are basically reunited, and creepy events ensue, and I can't tell you more about it without giving anything away. But yeah, definitely highly recommended. A Tale of Two Sisters from Korea, 2003. Check that one out.
I noticed that a lot of the Asian horror films are so good like that you really can't go into much detail.
Right, yeah.
Because they build so well that it'd almost be it'd be bad to kind of let you in too much before going to see it. I think that's some of the fun of just going in that totally blind and not knowing anything, because they build so well most of these films. So so that's bad. Like that was like the one where the tag along. I really don't want to go into much because I just want it to, whoever goes to see it, I want them to be discovered the same way I did,
Yeah.
So now here's a little spoiler for obviously for this week's best, because it's my best from that I saw throughout the whole challenge, which is I finally got to see Train to Busan.
Yes.
And oh my god, this immediately catapulted to my favorite zombie film ever. And obviously Night of the Living Dead was up there at the top, and even the funny comical version, Return of the Living Dead,
right?
And, some of the Dawn of the Dead, all the there's so many good zombie films early on, but then there's a lot that get schlocky, and of course Day of the Dead Bloodline, which was a turd, as I mentioned before. This one is like a perfect zombie film. It's a perfect, and it's just a great film to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that it's a zombie film makes it even better. It's like you actually care about the characters in it, and it's like it's so gripping and tense, and it's in that I think that claustrophobic feeling of being on the train like that, knowing that there's only so many places you can go, and it's exciting to see how they figure out how to get past sequences, and it's almost like it almost has like a really good video game feel at parts where, it's like, okay, what's the puzzle you need to figure out how to get out of this train car kind of thing. But the characters were so good, and the emotional impact of it was so good. And that little girl was amazing in it.
Yeah, she really was.
It's like, and it's just so good. And I know there's a sequel in the works. I can't wait to see that. And obviously there's I got to watch it because Cody, I think, watched it from one of her films, Soul Station, which was the prequel.
Yeah.
Animated. So I need to watch that.
I haven't seen that yet either.
Yeah, but this one, oh my god, I cannot recommend this more. I instantly knew it was going to be added to my collection. As I said, I ordered it. And yeah, this is just, I can't say anymore. I could just go on for hours talking about how much I love this. So
next up, I think we overlapped on this one too, Brian. My movie from Australia was Bait from 2012.
Yeah. Actually, Tim, give it credit. It's Bait 3D.
Bait 3D. Yeah. The version I watched was just Bait because there was no 3D about it. But,
yeah.
Kind of a ridiculous premise about a tsunami that washes all these sharks into what are they in, like a store of some type? Or...
Yeah, it should have been Sharknami. In all honesty, the title should.
It had all the feel of Sharknado without the humor. Right. It was kind of a CGI shark fest, I guess you could call it. I mean, there was parts of it I enjoyed, but overall it was kind of a CGI shark fest. What can I say?
Yeah, I just want to know though why Julian McMahon, no matter what role he's in, he has the same tone. Have you noticed that? Even when he's Doctor Doom, when he's in this, he's always got the same monotone. He's like, "Oh my God, my arm just got bitten off by a shark. I'm not sure what to do about it." It's like he's always like reading like as he's like on a Broadway stage or something, like projecting out.
Maybe he has a theater
nobody.
background.
He must. But yeah, no, I mean, the way I put it is described, I said, a perfectly serviceable shark film.
Yeah, that's about,
which is what it was.
It's about the nicest thing I could say about it.
Yeah, I mean, was it enjoyable? Like, I didn't get bored by it. I mean, it's like, it was like predictable as hell, but yeah, you know what?
All right, so next up from Canada, I had a great one. This one was called Pie Wacket.
Oh, yeah, and they're following you, Tim.
Yeah, they're following me, which is kind of scary. But 2017, this movie is about this. I think I described her as a moody teenager. She's a typical teenager. She has trouble with her mom, and she's heavily into the occult along with her friends. And she decides to perform a demon summoning ritual against her mother, which that never ends up well. So
yeah.
So this one, man, I love this film. This was a really, really cool movie. It had some great performances, and I won't give anything away by telling you what happens, but it's very enjoyable. And so don't be turned off by the kind of a weird name. The Pyewacket, it's really creepy, is really good.
Yeah, no, I saw the trailer was on. I don't know if it was Ghost Stories Blu-ray, one of them. It was on some horror movie I watched recently. It was the trailer was from it. It looked really good.
Yeah.
So my Canada pick was Bite, and the funny thing is this goes back to when this was released on Blu-ray. It was in my when I was like buying like a lot of stuff on Blu-ray because apparently I owned this and I had no idea. So I still watched it on streaming because I forgot that I owned it. So this one was it's basically the premise is this girl is she's on her bachelorette party. She gets bit by something in the water, and the funny thing is, it started off, I thought it was going to be found footage because the first like 10 minutes is kind of found footage. I guess they're just watching the girl who was videotaping the bachelorette party. And, she gets back, she's having doubts about the marriage. And apparently, this stuff goes on, which you learn about through the film that happened on the vacation. But long story short is it's basically, this bite, whatever bit her, is kind of like starting to take its toll on her. And it's like, basically it was not, let's put it this way. It's not a mosquito that bit her.
Okay.
Just, regular average mosquito. And, and another little hint about it is, so if you loved the David Cronenberg version of The Fly, you will absolutely love this movie. And it was really good. And apparently it had it was one of those movies that people used to it had the promotion of people were getting sick and throwing up and walking out at whatever film festival it was at. And I mean, I don't know if we're just desensitized, but to me it was it was gross in some sequences, but nothing worse than I've seen in other movies. So I'm not sure why this one got the distinction of that, but it was good. It was fine. I liked it way more than I thought it was based on the reviews. And so it's a pretty solid entry, I would say.
All right. So next up was our movie from Italy, and I went with an Argento classic, Tenebrae. From 1982.
Oh, I did too. So I guess we did, and we duplicated again.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah,
I did Tenebrae also.
But this one was a great one. I mean, what you would expect from an Argento film. It's about an American writer who is in Rome, and he's writing a book, and the serial killer is stalking and killing off all these people around him. So typical giallo type film. But
got some good gore.
Good gore, yeah. It was really.
And John Saxon.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I was so excited when I saw John Saxon in there. I was like, oh my gosh, he never ages ever. So it was it's rightfully so a classic of Italian cinema. So go check that one out.
I mean, you pretty much know this. When you get to Italian cinema, you kind of know that there's a couple of directors you're gonna get.
Yeah, and they're going to be fantastic because they're known.
Yeah, so
here.
It's like, and I figured, what obviously was the new Suspiria coming out. I'm just gonna go with the Dario Argento film, and so and it's funny. For some reason I'm surprised I haven't seen Tenebrae before. And at first I was like, did I see this? And I forgot, but no, I definitely did not see this. It was one that I'm glad that the challenge came around that I got to see it because it's actually one of my favorites that I've seen. So
yeah, so now it's time for me to pick a favorite, and this is hard because almost every movie in here except for one was really, really good. So I don't know. I'm just looking at my list here.
This is tough because I know I'm struggling for yours because we had some of the duplicates too.
Yeah, I know this one's really, really tough. I don't know. I think I've got to go with Ghost Stories. I got to go with my gut. There was something about that movie I really enjoyed. I loved Revenge. I loved A Tale of Two Sisters. I loved Pyewacket. Those were all great movies, but I'm gonna go with Ghost Stories just because it was my sentimental favorite because it has Martin Freeman in it.
Yeah, and I mean, mine obviously no secret, as I kind of hinted before. It's Train to Busan. Worst, I would probably it's got to be Bait 3D. And normally, it's only because of what it's in. It may not have been the worst in some other categories, but in this one, it has to. But the thing is, every one other than that is I loved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Bait's got to be my worst as well, for sure.
Yeah, so poor Bait 3D.
Poor Bait. So next up, we had subgenre slaughter. So we just picked a bunch of different horror subgenres and had you watch a movie from each of those. And this one is the category I cheated the most in, just due to timing, because I was getting pressed for time and I was worried I wouldn't finish the challenge. So I was kind of using some films that I had seen for other things. But, I mean, it still counts. It's a movie I watched that I had not seen before. It's not like I'm cheating in that way. It's just I'm kind of double dipping, using them for multiple things. So a couple of these, one of these we watched for the podcast. One I watched for the Alphabet Project, that kind of thing. So
yeah. That's
without further ado, my slasher film, I just used Halloween 2018.
Hey, that's a good one.
It's a good one, as good as any. So that was my slasher film, and of course, I talked about that all on the last episode. So you can hear an entire episode about that one if you want.
Yeah. So mine was another one of those classic 80s box arts, and that was The Mutilator.
I remember that one.
So this one was actually, it's funny. It's like, when I first watched it, I was like, what a weird movie. This is so, like, just like, it's so cliche. And then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, this is an 80s slasher. This is what they were. And it's funny, as I think back to it now, it's like been growing on me a little bit. As bad, as silly and crazy in the premise as it was with Spot, it was good. And it was weird because you knew the killer the whole time. It wasn't masked or anything.
Right.
And it was like, even if you didn't see him, you knew who it was based on the setup. So it's not a surprise. And the couple of things, though, that are weird. And first of all, they apparently it was also titled Fall Break.
Okay.
What the heck is a fall break? They treat it like it's a spring break in this. Now, the only thing I can assume is Thanksgiving. But it wasn't Thanksgiving because they didn't go for Thanksgiving. They just said, hey, what are we doing for fall break? And then they go to this guy's house, who, like, he had a troubled past, which I won't give away because it kind of spoils some of it. And it has by far one of the best 80s classic theme songs to a movie called Fall Break. Is the theme.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you gotta hear this thing. It's like, you're going on a fall break. It's like like that level of it's right up there. And but it's got some pretty good kills. The funny thing is, though, so and I saw this on a review, and I have to say it was fine. I forgot who wrote the thing. I think it was on one of the IMDb reviews. Are like, why would a bunch of college kids want to go to a beachside house during fall where there's no swimming? And then he goes, oh, wait a minute, there's a random indoor pool in a tent hidden in the middle of this like area, which is true. They're just walking along the beach, and all of a sudden they discover like this pool like at a cocoon, but it's in like one of those like tents. But yeah, and then they play like this weird random game that I still don't understand the purpose of in it, and they drink a lot of cheap beer, and people get knocked off one by one like a typical. But it like I said, it grew on me, and it's like I will recommend it to watch only for that damn theme song too, which is great. So, and it's got the 3 Bs, of course. So.
Oh, of course. So next up, another one I kind of cheated on. This was I used for my Alphabet Project. This was our supernatural film, and I chose Terrified from 2017. This was that great, I believe Spanish? I want to say Spanish.
Well, the one you watched was Iranian. I don't know, but this wasn't this one, right?
Wasn't Iranian. I think this one was Spanish or Argentinian. Or
Tim's all over the globe. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but man, great movie. Oh my gosh. Another one in that triumvirate of fantastic ghost movies I watched over the course of this challenge. And I talked about it a couple episodes back or so, and it's just phenomenal. It has one of the single most creepy sequences I've ever seen in a ghost movie, period.
I gotta watch that. Yeah.
You gotta see it.
So mine, we to get another overlap, but this was a good one, was Ghost Stories. I used that for my Supernatural, and oh my God, did I love this movie. This was, I mean, Martin Freeman aside even, it was just a great movie. Had some of the coolest creepy sequences in it, and just it had you just like so enthralled in this movie, and it was just really like, I mean, I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to spoil anything on it. Just, it's basically a high recommend. And I put this down. I made a little note basically saying it's just, for me, just behind Train to Busan as favorite of the entire
yeah, it was fantastic.
challenge. Yeah, it was really, really good. This is not disappointing. I don't know. I know I did see some negative reviews, and I don't know what the heck what movie they watched.
Yeah. Next up, we had you watch a torture film, and this one was tough for me because I've seen almost all of them.
Right.
Even though I don't consider myself like a huge torture fan, but I was looking for one. I was like, I've seen all of these. Oh my god! But I went with a little indie film which I had not seen from 2000, and it was called Cut. And the premise was kind of interesting in that they were basically filming a horror movie. It's kind of another one of those meta type concepts, but they realized that, it would be more realistic if they just killed the people in real life, right? So there's a kind of a twisty thing going on there, and I can't recommend this one, unfortunately. It's one of those that's just kind of, I hate to talk, we totally support indie film here, and we love these indie projects and even the low budget projects. But this one was just kind of too many twists and turns for its own good, and it tried to be too clever for its own good. So I can't really. I was stretching even to get this one into the torture category, even though it has some of that. It really isn't the primary focus, but I have to say pass on Cut.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, since basically I watched all the Saws and we watched some of the big ones already, I had trouble too, and I found one it happened to be on the Cinemax app called Captivity, and yeah, this one was just another one that just tried too hard. It was not great. Even with Alicia Cuthbert, could not save this. And she's usually at least some nice to look at.
Yeah.
But even she got annoying, and that's how. Yeah, this was just and it tried to add stuff to what. The way I look at it is, you're going to do a torture porn movie. If you can't do it as good as Saw, just do a torture porn movie and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Don't try and get cute with it and try and add little things to it. And that's what this one did. And it was all predictable and silly. And Julie was watching with me, and she's like, "Oh, I bet this is gonna happen." And sure enough, it did. And it was just it's just it was one of those ones that because I know you said Olivia's the same way. Julie and Olivia would just could have probably easily walked out within 10 minutes and figured out the whole movie. So.
Oh man, that's too bad. So I fared a little better with my next one, which was the horror comedy. And for this one, I watched Microwave Massacre from 1983. And
I want to see this.
Yeah, you'll probably have seen the box art that has a head in a microwave oven.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I totally. That's one of those classic box arts.
Yeah, so it's basically about this guy. His wife orders a microwave. And apparently back in 1983, microwaves were the size of a refrigerator or something because...
they were huge. I remember our
gigantic.
First one. It's yeah.
And this guy's a construction worker, and he's kind of browbeaten at home by his domineering wife. And so he gets fed up with her. And she's his first kill for the microwave. And that kind of sends him along this path. And it's just so over-the-top comedy in this movie. It's got that weird early 80s vibe where just that cornball humor type stuff. And I just loved every minute of this one. This is like a cult classic I could see you just putting on at a party and just laughing along with. It's fantastic.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, you gotta watch this one, Brian. Microwave Massacre.
Well, remember back in the 80s, it was holidays or objects were the impetus to these horror films.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, mine. Oh, this is another dud that I picked, and I had such high hopes for this based on the thing. It was called Head, and it was a puppet horror movie. And here's the thing: so it was acting like they weren't acting like puppets or anything. They were it was just they were acting out. If it was you got a really cheesy 80s horror film, but with puppets. But the problem was it was supposed to be a horror comedy. It was neither scary nor funny. In fact, it had the most boring dialogue ever. And it was it had to try to shock value, real puppet nudity and murder, and all this weird stuff like that. And it was just so boring. I think I dozed off 3 times through this thing. I didn't think puppets could have bad acting. I don't think it was possible.
How do you do that?
I don't know. But that's how bad this thing was. It was the dialogue they chose, and it was they were editing it bad, and and the whole premise is the puppets just kept getting their heads chopped off, and it was just so. Oh God, I don't know what the heck they were thinking.
Wow.
Ugh.
Well, my next one up was another one I fared pretty good on. This was a found footage film. And for this one, I chose a Ty West film that I had never heard of. And this one was called The Sacrament from 2014. And this is basically Jonestown, the Jonestown Massacre, as a found footage horror movie.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was really, really cool. It's about these guys that go out into the jungle to this cult compound. I think he's there to basically bring his sister back, who has joined this cult. And it's done all in a documentary style. And the leader is a very Jim Jones type character. I mean, they don't even try to hide the fact that they're completely stealing this from the actual Jonestown Massacre. But it's still good because I love that whole story. I've listened to tons of podcasts about Jonestown, true crime podcasts and the like. So I really, really enjoy this one. Super, super creepy. Definitely highly recommend it. It's called The Sacrament from 2014.
It was funny. I forgot what for a second when we were in the thing. I was like, oh, wow, I picked a found footage film too. And I'm like, oh, duh. This is the category. So I watched Phoenix Tapes 97.
I've wanted to see that one.
Yeah, this one was actually a really, really solid found footage. It's just these four guys. They're going off. I think they're trying to find a fishing hole, and they end up getting caught up in the whole typical thing. They see the lights and weird things start happening to them. But it was just, you know what it was? It was just a found footage movie just done just well. They just did. They didn't try anything crazy. They didn't go like cheat in the genre in any way. They just straight found footage movie. And since I'm kind of a sucker for those kind of alien things anyway, to have a found footage one on it was great. And it's just it was just a really good solid found footage movie.
Yeah, I want to check that one out since you recommended it, because that's one I've always had my eye on, but I didn't know if it was any good or not. So
yeah, same here. Like I always had it kind of like lurking in my queue, and I'm like, okay. I said, oh well, I need a good found footage. Let me do this one. And yeah, I was not disappointed. I think you really like it.
Okay, so up next, the last one on my list that I kind of cheated on, that was the psychological horror film, and I just used Extremity, which we covered a few episodes back. Yeah. That was the one about the lady that goes into the extreme haunt, which was definitely very psychological horror, no doubt about it. And
oh yeah,
so that was my
fits
pick
the bill
for this category.
Yeah, so mine I picked was Unsane. That was the one it famously was shot on an iPhone 7 Plus.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
I actually really liked it. At first I was like, I don't know about this. Am I going to like it? Is it going to be, because, they had this whole like premise like, oh, is she really imagining it? Is this really what's going on? But I thought it was really good. And I have to say the standout was Jay Farrow he plays kind of a serious role in it.
Right.
And, he's obviously known for his amazing comedy and impressions of people, and he was so good in this. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is him. He's just such a good like actor, and it was just a really cool movie. I mean, and I almost like forgot that it was like the whole iPhone 7 thing because it was shot pretty well.
Yeah, and of course I'm a huge Claire Foy fan, so her being
and she was really good in this, and of course she's in that new the dude Elizabeth, what's her name, Elizabeth Salinger? What is that?
Oh yeah,
I don't know what
you're talking about.
Or Salander, or whatever. Her,
the girl with the Dragon Tattoo series.
She's in the new one of that, so that'd be interesting because she's pretty good. So yeah, that one was really good. I liked Unsane. You saw it, right? You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really solid.
Olivia and I watched The Crown. We completely binged The Crown. She's just so phenomenal in that I had to see this one.
Yeah.
So next up was our holiday horror film, and I chose one called Secret Santa from 2015. Another indie picture, and man, I hate to say it, I cannot recommend this one at all. This one, the editing and the timing was so off on this one. It's like one of those where they hold a beat like a second or two too long, and a lot of the jokes just fell completely flat. And it was, I honestly, I can't tell you much about it. Not because I want to give anything away. It's because I just frankly don't remember what was going on. And it was one of the most recent ones I watched.
Oh, you should have watched All Through the House. That was a decent one.
Yeah, there was probably plenty of other good Christmas movies I could have watched, but I'd seen a lot of them already. So I just kind of had to pick one that I had not seen before, and Secret Santa was it. So don't recommend that one.
Well, yeah, I definitely beat you on this one in terms of quality. I finally watched Red Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
which, oh my god, I mean, Dee Wallace aside, who we love and adore to the highest degree on, but this was so good and like kind of unique in a way, and it was just like, and like Tim described it perfectly in the show. I remember that while I was watching this, Tim's like, it starts off as a pretty normal, and then just goes crazy, like, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I mean, and Dee Wallace again is just the best. She's one of the best.
She's a national treasure.
She is. It really is. And in this movie, this is just, I mean, some of the great gore and just like nutty kind of things going on in here, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, this is automatically leaped up to one of my favorite like holiday like horror films now.
Oh yeah,
and it's just behind. It's definitely in the top, easily top 5 out of the entire challenge, and it probably would have won. I mean, I might as well spoil this here. I mean, probably would have been the best if it wasn't for Ghost Stories in this group.
Yeah,
but Ghost Stories just edges it out. But Red Christmas is just a tad behind it.
It will be a annual watch for me.
Oh,
from here on out.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be right up there with Krampus for me and Silent Night and Black Christmas, all those, yeah.
So my pick for this, my best out of this group, obviously the crowd favorite is going to be Halloween 2018. Right. So I kind of have to go with that one. But if you set that one aside because it's kind of a crowd favorite and it's kind of a little bit of a cheat, I'm going to have to go with Terrified from 2017.
I gotta watch
just
that.
Such a great movie, and did some stuff with ghost things that I have just never seen in any other ghost film.
Oh,
ever.
That's right. Yes, you said that. Yeah, that's what really makes me want to see that, because you said most of the time it's like anything with like the with the horror genre, like one person does it and then the other one's trying to repeat it.
Yeah,
like the skipping ghosts, and that little. Once that's started, that's every movie does it and tries to do it in a different way, and then the creepy walk and the fast and the whole
totally original from top to bottom.
Oh, cool.
My worst, definitely Secret Santa, without a doubt, no hesitation.
Yeah. Well, mine, like I said, is Ghost Stories, and the worst I'm gonna give is Head, and just because. Yeah, I mean, sorry, you hear about a slasher with puppets, you automatically think that's gonna be just hilarious, at least. And it wasn't. So, yeah, and like I said, like Red Christmas just behind Ghost Stories, just behind.
Yeah, that one was great. So next up, we had the short week. This was the week of Halloween, and this one was kind of a viewer's choice or listener's choice week, where we kind of gave you free reign. For my Netflix viewer's choice, I chose one that the title had always intrigued me, but I'd never watched because I'd heard very mixed reviews. And this was I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
Oh, Kim and Kat did that on their podcast.
Yeah, this one's from 2016.
They did that one. That's a great episode to listen to, by the way, when they go over that one.
Well, it's a very extremely slow burn movie. It's very methodical. It's very artsy, I would say. But it is a ghost movie, and it's got kind of that ethereal ghost vibe to it. And even though, like, I can't say I loved it in terms of a horror movie, something about it intrigued me in terms of just the way it took its time and was such a deliberately paced film that something about it kind of appealed to me regardless. And definitely has some very creepy stuff in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it. I actually wanted to see it when I heard about it, when they went over it on Kim and Kat Stay Alive, because they kept calling Ruth Wilson Pretty Mouth.
Yeah, she does have a pretty mouth, I guess.
Yeah, so I was cracking up. I'm like, oh my god, I want to see this movie. And they were talking about one really super creepy sequence that I want to kind of see. So
yeah,
but yeah, so my first one on Netflix was Most Likely to Die, and it was actually by the guy that did Extremity. So I said, okay, I got a little connection there. So yeah, this was the best way to describe this was a total 80s premise slasher, but they modernized it, and I think that's where it failed. It had some decent kills, and it had a couple of funny type of horror lines in it, but I mean it had Perez Hilton in it, for God's sake. That was an odd choice. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, it's the whole thing of a group of people going to meeting together for a high school reunion, and someone coming back to kill them all. How many times have you
Oh
seen
man,
that?
yeah.
And it's been in the 80s forever. And so you're modernizing it today, and it's still no better of a premise. It's
Yeah.
like, especially when you've seen it so many times. I mean, it was definitely an attempt there, and I had higher hopes for it because Extremity was so good. But this was an earlier one of his films, so, maybe just trying a slasher. I mean, I get it. They definitely mentioned way too much the World Series of Poker because one of the characters, she was in it, and they must have kept saying, oh, well, if only you did remember the World Series of Poker. I'm like, oh my God, we get it. She's in the World Series of Poker. Stop mentioning it. So, yeah, I mean, it had some, obviously it had the classic 80s horror tropes of some TNA and gore and cheesy lines, but, yeah, it just was not...
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't horrible. I've seen way, way worse, but it just didn't hit, basically.
Well, for my Shudder viewer's choice, one of the reasons we always say we love this challenge is to fill in the gaps. The stuff that you should have seen, but you've never seen for whatever reason. And my next two titles definitely fit that bill. So my Shudder viewer's choice was The Stuff from 1985.
You never saw that?
I've never seen The Stuff. I've never seen it. So, of course, this is the famous, I guess it's kind of a satire on consumerism, of course, but it's about this alien stuff that looks like marshmallow fluff.
I got to actually watch it because I used to watch that back in the day, and I haven't seen it in years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had such a great time with this one. I mean, it's typical campy 80s stuff, but it's just, you could tell why it's a cult classic, though. It's just such a crazy premise, and I kind of want some of that stuff. It actually looks pretty good.
I think it would make a great haunt.
Oh, yeah, it would. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that would make a great haunt.
That would be awesome.
Universal, you listening? I did make a suggestion. I threw a suggestion in for them. So, but when they were asking for what kind of haunts there was, I said a Train to Busan haunt would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
Especially if you just went from train car to train car with the rooms.
Yeah,
oh, come on.
Like, imagine that layout, just one long layout. That'd be cool.
It would be perfect. It's such a good haunt. It lends so much to it. We should have kept it for ourselves, and we should have made it. But so mine, my Shudder pick was one that from the second I heard about this, I was dying to see it, and I couldn't wait. And it's like it was killing me because I knew it was on my radar and I wanted to get up to it, but I couldn't find a good spot to put it in. So I just decided to leave it for my Shudder pick, and that's Summer of '84.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to see that one.
And so, so if you love Spielbergian type movies and obviously Stranger Things, you will absolutely love this one. This one is so good. Gets a lot darker than a typical Spielberg film, of course, but it's really, really good. The performances are great, and it's just like, it's got that 80s feel to it, and some of the... And, it's funny, in such a familiar genre, especially with now Stranger Things and 80s homages being so popular, this one actually managed to surprise me in points, which I did not think it could do. So I highly, highly recommend it. This is probably right up there. It's definitely my top 5 for the whole challenge, too.
Nice.
So, yeah, definitely a high recommend.
Nice. So my Amazon Prime viewer's choice, Brian, you're going to be even more upset with me than you were at The Stuff. I have never seen any of the Sleepaway Camp sequels.
Oh my
until now.
God.
I had only seen the original. That's right. So I chose Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers. And as a bonus, I also watched Sleepaway Camp 3.
Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story about that one later.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously the biggest disappointment is Felissa Rose is not back. She's another actress plays Angela in parts 2 and 3, but I don't know about 4. But
I forget. Yeah, 4 is the one I remember the least.
And then there's Return to Sleepaway Camp where Felissa Rose is back, right?
Yeah, she's back on that one. Yeah,
but anyway, this one was actually really entertaining. Obviously, it's a little bit bigger budget, a little bit bigger everything. And of course, they do away with a lot of the whole twist stuff of Angela because it's kind of already.
Oh no, these are just straight slashers.
These are just straight, just straight crazy slashers. So, but I really, really like this one. Actually, I enjoyed 2 and 3 quite a bit.
Was 2 the one where she's stuck in the outhouse and she gets killed, right? Or is that 3? I can't remember.
Oh gosh.
I remember. Not that it matters.
It's hard because I watched them both. I literally watched them back to back, so it's kind of hard because they blended together. But yeah, they were still a lot of fun. That whole series is a lot of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of like knows it's kind of like a wink, wink. We're gonna be a cheesy slasher kind of thing, which I liked. You know, when a slasher knows it's cheesy and kind of like lives up to it and plays up to it, there's this extra level of respect for it in a weird way.
It's like a comment I saw on one of these. I can't remember which one it was, and somebody said, "You either get these films or you don't." And that's basically what it boils down to. That's perfectly said. You just get these or you don't.
Yeah. So here's my Amazon pick, and so I had one picked all ready to go, and at the last minute I switched because this one caught my eye, and it's called Territory. It's an indie anthology, and I'm a sucker for anthology movies, and this one had a neat premise. So supposedly it's like in this world where there's this known territory, as they call it, and it's funny, cool, because the opening of it through the credits is like this map, and you see like some like wink nods to like other movies. Like there's a thing where you see Burkittsville on the map, and and it's a Blair Witch, and supposedly there's all these legends in this one area on this map, and it's brought to you. All the stories are brought to you by like there's an overlapping story of this couple that's at a house in the I guess by the woods, and their power goes out and they can't watch their movies, so the husband decides to freak his wife out by telling her these tales. And there's like some, while it's an indie and it's like, it's definitely, you can tell it's low budget. I mean, some of the effects don't hit great, and some of the acting is not the best, but the stories and the tales behind it are really, really cool. Like there's one about Pumpkin Jack, which is this guy that walks around in the woods where he's got this like that plastic, those plastic pumpkins that you carry like for the trick or treating.
Yeah,
it's like he wears that. He like wears that on his head, and he goes around. And there's one like the Midnight Clown where it's like he always appears and he lets one person live. It's just really cool little tales that are kind of creepy, some of them, and so it's really a neat premise. And it's like there's a sequel, so I already started watching the sequel. I'm almost done with it. I had to stop because we're going to record. And the sequel, kind of what I like, is expands on the mythology, where it's the premise, the wraparound premise is this guy walking in the woods and he's mapping out the territory to get it correct, to make sure no one goes in the areas. And he meets this other hiker, and that's how he tells a story, because he's like, okay, well here we can't walk this way because this, and he encounters a bunch of some of the stories from the first movie, but also some new ones to expand on the mythology. It's just a really cool indie anthology. Yeah, you will love it. You gotta see these. It was such a surprise how much I liked it when I first started. I'm like, oh my god, this is like really bad acting, and it's like, but it's like it's funny. Some of the acting is great in it. Some of the acting is not as good, and it's just a really, really cool little creepy tales. Like someone explained it really good. They said it's like the stories are almost like the stories you would tell your friends to kind of freak them out by going, wouldn't it be creepy if like right over there this happened? And that's kind of what they're like. But it's really cool premises, like just like really, and it's just neat how they kind of tie in some other movies like subtly in there. It's like so. But yeah, definitely a recommend to see these. And I'm like so far the second one I love even more than the first, I think. Wow. So I'm kind of hoping this becomes like a cool like a full on series. They keep going with it because it's really neat.
Well, and finally for Halloween, we asked you to rewatch your favorite horror movie, and for me that has to be The Shining. So unfortunately I did not get out to see it at the theater on Sunday. They were doing it as part of their flashback cinema. Oh yeah. So I really would have liked to done, but it is streaming on Netflix right now. So it was The Shining. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's like I'm torn because it's like part of me wants to like it used to be a tradition where I'd always watch the original Halloween on Halloween, so I still may stick to that. But then, or Trick or Treat it used to be, but since we just recently saw that, I'm like wondering if I maybe do Tales of Halloween, which I hadn't seen yet this October.
Mm-hmm. Always a good one.
So it's like. Yeah, so I'm torn to see, because I mean, to put my favorite in there, it's like it's hard because on Halloween I like specific movies I like to watch. So I probably will end up with watching either Tales of Halloween or the original Halloween, just because they're just some of the ones I used to always watch traditionally on that day. So Yeah, so I'll have to spur them. I could watch them both for all I know.
So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that horror movie challenge recap. I hope you found some stuff that you can put on your watch list, because a lot of great films in there. I mean, I think between the both of us, we only had a handful of ones that we couldn't recommend.
Yeah, and I think we'll write a list. We'll have to post a list of the best of the best out of here.
Yeah, and I'll probably post my full list just so everybody can see, because
Oh, right, yeah, we probably should do that.
Kind of do a summary, and we'll kind of maybe highlight the ones that we really, really recommend. But yeah, so this week, Brian, you said we're not doing a beer pairing, a traditional beer pairing, that is.
Right, yeah, what I decided to do is, since it's kind of like a recap episode of all the horror challenges, in that vein, we're going to just pick your favorite pumpkin beer that you like. I mean, mine, as Tim and I have said many before, it's mine up there is definitely up there is Pumpkin. So that's what I was actually having through tonight's show. So just pick your favorite pumpkin beer for the beer pairing, because obviously with a wide variety of movies through this challenge, I mean, I'm not going to definitely come up with 50 plus beer pairings for us all. And the same thing with kind of like the 6 degrees of dismemberment, 6 degrees of decapitation. Just because there was so many movies, we just figured we'll take a break. But we do need to go over the answer to last week.
That's right.
I guess we should probably go over that, because I know people are dying to know how to get from Jamie Lee Curtis to just Jamie Lee.
Yeah, so, yeah, of course, last week, Jamie Lee Curtis to Jamie Lee. Well, Jamie Lee Curtis was in house arrest with Michael Hitchcock. Michael Hitchcock was in a movie called Bug with Max Jabrani, and Max Jabrani was in Paradise with Jamie Lee. So that's how you do it in 3.
There you go. Well done.
All right, so next week, Cannibal Month starts. For Thanksgiving, we're
Yes.
doing all things cannibal, and we got some crazy movies for you, and maybe a special surprise or two, Brian.
Yeah, I think there might be a surprise next week, which we will not say. But once it gets closer, we may start teasing it a little bit.
Yep.
And I think we're also going to do a as a new tradition, since that will only span 2 years because there's only 2 of them. I think we're going to do a Thanksgiving 3 commentary track for you again, because we did obviously Thanksgiving last year, and since the whole joke is Thanksgiving 3 is the next one, and there is no Thanksgiving 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I actually enjoyed that one quite a bit.
The first one was great. It was great. So, so we'll work on that, and we'll probably do, I think we'll probably do it similar again, where we'll release it like either Thanksgiving Eve or Thanksgiving Day, so you can bring it over to grandmother's house and watch Thanksgiving 3 with her, and play our commentary along with it.
Yeah, it'll be a new tradition.
Yeah. And then, of course, though, unless they come up with more, then we're going to be scrambling for next year.
All right, guys, we'll see you back here next week. Take it easy.
See you later.